Because the once sacred turf of television evangelism has been slipping and sliding of late due to the disillusioning scandals of some of the key players. First, the sexual indiscretion of PTL leader Jim Bakker came to light when he admitted his affair with church secretary Jessica Hahn. And here is what another television evangelist, Jimmy Swaggart, had to say about Bakker's affair.
Then we got this soap opera that's being carried out live down in South Carolina, all under the name of God. And my business is preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ. I'm not in the amusement park business. I'm not in the live soap opera business, and I'm not in the water slide business.
But in less than a year, Jimmy Swaggart could have eaten those words because he was caught by churchman Marvin Gorman outside the motel in New Orleans where he'd been with prostitute Debra Murphree. Eventually, he admitted to his congregation and his wife Frances that he had given in to the very temptation he preached against.
I have sinned against you, my Lord. I have sinned against you. And I beg your forgiveness.
In this month's Penthouse magazine, an explicit story with pictures is told by prostitute Debra Murphree, who joins us this morning. Good morning, Debra. You were shaking your head as you were watching those pictures of Jimmy Swaggart. What were you thinking?
He's up there crying, and I know those tears aren't real.
How do you know?
This can't be. I mean, because he was up there preaching about all this stuff and then kind of doing it, you know, and...
But couldn't his tears of repentance be real?
Well, maybe, but to me, I don't really think so because, you know, I watch him on TV, you know. I mean, I don't really watch him, but some of the things I've seen, you know, he's a totally different person than when he seen me. That's the real person I think he was.
Did you know it was Jimmy Swaggart?
Yes.
But you mentioned this to him, didn't you?
Well, not right off, you know, later on. I guess after I'd seen him a few times, I'd mentioned to him, I said, you know, you look like Jimmy Swaggart. And he said, well, a lot of people tell me that, you know. I said that a few times, but well, he said his name was Billy, so I just went along with his game.
How long do you suppose you saw him, and how many times?
I guess around 20, 25 times. It was 1 to 3 times a month.
What kinds of things did he ask you to do? When he picked you up first on the street and you got in the car, he asked you if you were a police officer.
Yeah.
And you proved to him you weren't.
Yeah, I got in his car and raised my blouse to prove I wasn't.
Well, how would that prove you weren't, by the way?
Because, see, most cops aren't supposed to expose themselves, or they're not allowed to touch.
That's called entrapment?
Well, yeah. But, so I figured, you know, hey, he didn't believe me, you know, what else could I do? So that was it.
How long had you been on the streets at this point?
I had been working for about 6 years, but I'd only been in New Orleans, I guess, 2 or 3 weeks, maybe.
And you were just pretty new on the streets, weren't you?
Yeah, I was new, yeah. Every city I went to, I always walked the street long enough to build my clientele up. But,
and this, you were pretty new in New Orleans.
Yeah.
After the first encounter in the car, and he masturbated in the car, I guess, right? What happened then when he would go to meet you in the motel room?
He would just, well, he'd more or less do the same thing. He'd just want to watch me pose, do different poses for him. He would want me, you know, just right at first, that was about all it was posing. Then later, he wanted me to start using a sexual toy on myself, and he'd want me to, he asked me several times if I had another woman I could get so he could watch both of us. But I didn't know anybody, so I never did do that.
You say he was cheap in terms of the money that he wanted to spend.
Yeah, he never spent, when I first met him, he offered me $10. And I told him no. So he come back later on that day with $20, you know, and for all he wanted to do, you know, I said, well, okay, $20. He was quick anyway, so I did it. But I could never get any more money out of him.
Was he, in your opinion, a kind of a normal client, or was he different?
Well, he was normal up to a certain extent, you know. I mean, a lot of things he wanted to do was normal, because a lot of guys like that. They like for you to pose and stuff, but the only thing that wasn't was when he started to get my daughter involved.
And how did he do that? He didn't really get your daughter involved.
Well, no, he wanted to. He had seen a picture of her, you know, because I always kept my room. I worked out of that same room for over a year, so I kept things there, you know. And he'd seen a picture of my kids, and he'd start off asking me questions like, he'd say, well, you have a nice family, and he would say, well, can I meet her sometime? And, you know, I wouldn't really, at first I didn't really say too much to him, you know, because I just thought he was just being nosy. And then he started asking me questions like, has she started to develop in her private parts? And I said, well, no, she's only 9 years old, you know. And then he started asking me questions like, well, can I meet her and tell her, and we tell her that he's a photographer, and maybe I'll take pictures of you, and then she'll get, you know, how do you say it?
Used to
comfortable,
him?
yeah, and maybe participate in it. And I just, you know, when he started bringing that up, you know, I told him, hey, don't talk about my daughter, you know.
Why have you gone public?
Well, because we got caught, okay, and he confessed and he didn't tell the truth, and you know, he's out there preaching about all this pornography and stuff, and then turning around wanting to do it with a 9-year-old little girl. If I hadn't come out with it, he'd still be in the ministries.
Some people say, Deborah, that you didn't get caught. Some speculate that you might have been a part of catching him.
No, I don't think
you had a
so.
relationship, though, with a police officer who was Marvin Gorman's son.
Yes.
Marvin Gorman being the man that Swaggart brought down by accusing him of sexual forays, right? Another preacher with Assemblies of God. How long did you see the police officer who was Gorman's son?
I dated him about the same time. I met him around, I guess it was either, I think it was right after I met Swaggart, yeah.
And did this police officer, know it was Jimmy Swaggart?
Well, not to write off, you know, because I dated this police officer, you know, I just seen him very few times. In the last few months before we got caught, I had told him that I was dating Jimmy Swaggart, because I told a lot of people. And he got real interested, you know, and started asking me questions and stuff, and I couldn't understand why. But
you didn't know he was Gorman's son at that point?
No, I didn't know he was Randy Gorman.
Did you know that, you didn't know that was his name? Oh,
No.
You didn't make the connection?
No, I didn't even know his real name. He didn't tell me his real name.
No.
He always used another name, but I don't remember what that was.
Was he a police officer who was just in the market for a girl? Or was
Oh, yeah, he was a regular client, because he never knew I dated Swaggart until I said something. Then he became curious, and he started coming around more, calling me every day.
Is he unhappy with the fact that the world knows this now, that he was seeing you?
I don't know. I haven't talked or spoken to anybody.
So then his father got involved, because obviously he told his father, hey, you
Yeah.
can get Swaggart too. You can find him in this New Orleans motel.
But I had found out later that they had me under surveillance for 3 weeks in the hotel.
And you didn't know it?
No. I
But
didn't know
Jimmy
it.
Swaggart would ask you if the heat was on, wouldn't he?
Well, yeah, but that was cops, you know, because there was times, you know, like, matter of fact, on the day we got caught, the cops had really been bad the week before, and they were busting a lot of girls. So, you know, and sometimes if I didn't feel comfortable, if cops were too hot, I wouldn't work.
Gorman was in a room down the corridor from your room, and all the rooms faced outside. And when Swaggart left, realizing something was going on, to get in his car, he had a flat tire.
Yes.
Do you suppose that flat had been created by Gorman?
I believe so, because, you know, he pulled up, and he wasn't in there long enough for it to go down like that, you know.
And then, in trying to fix the car, Gorman came by.
Well, that's because the detective that was in the room, from what we had found out, he had called Marvin Gorman, and he came on down. They let the air out of his tire, you know, so give him a chance, you know, to get there. But I kept seeing this guy driving by, you know, in this blue car, and then when he finally pulls in the parking lot, so I'd never seen a picture of Marvin Gorman either, so I thought he was a cop. I thought we were getting set up.
Last fall, as we watched Jimmy Swaggart being defrocked, your name was not public at
No.
that point. And as you were watching, what were you thinking? Were you ever thinking, gee, you know, I could make some money on
Well,
this?
not really. Not at first. When I walked in and I seen this on TV, I said, "What is this guy doing? Why is he confessing?" You know, I didn't realize he had gotten caught by the ministry or whatever, but I couldn't believe it. And then I found out, you know, who caught him and everything, and they had pictures of us. So I decided to come out public, because it wasn't only for the money, though, but it was because he wasn't telling the truth, and they knew who I was. And eventually my name will be brought out into it, you know, and it gave me a chance to get out of my line of work, you know. And he wasn't telling the truth. And like I said, if I hadn't come out, he'd still be in the ministry.
The guy who wrote the article in Penthouse said that you have a fast-talking agent who was a music promoter from New Orleans. Did he find you, or did you find him?
He was more or less, he come to my lawyer. He found out who my lawyer was. He was just a music agent.
Is
you
he the
know.
one who pushed Penthouse?
No, he has nothing to do with this at all. I
Nothing.
don't, you know.
It's reported that Penthouse paid you $250,000 for the photographs.
Well, that was something my lawyer advised me not to discuss.
Do you know why he advised you not to discuss it? I mean, you're not on trial or anything.
Well, no. I don't know why, so I just...
You're listening to him.
Yeah, I don't talk about it.
Are you a prostitute now?
No, I'm not.
you don't intend to ever return to it?
No, never. I had been wanting to get out of it for the last 2 years.
Why did you get into it in the first place?
Well, I guess it was just there. It just happened. I moved to Nashville. I was looking for a job, and I met somebody that was working for escorting service. They more or less introduced me.
And you like the money?
Well, yeah.
What about the morality, Deborah? Did you grow up with a kind of freedom that would lead you into this kind of a...
Well, no, I didn't grow up like that. I'd started off maybe when I was 14 or 15 years old, and I got married when I was 16, quit school, had 3 kids in 5 years.
What about your children? I mean, are you afraid of what this might do to them? The fact
Well,
that
you know, at first, when I first come out with this, you know, I didn't realize how, or if it would hurt them, you know. I didn't think it would go that far. But, you know, they're really handling it well.
How old are they?
Well, my boys are 7 and 8 right now, and my daughter is 10, almost 11.
How do you know, can you possibly speculate how this might hurt them as adults?
Well, now my daughter knows everything. She hasn't seen the magazine, which I'm not going to show her until she gets older, but, you know, I'd rather come out and be honest with her and tell her about it now, and then that way maybe she accept it a little better.
But it's interesting, you've been really kind of rewarded for what you did in terms of money and exposure. Are you afraid that that message might hurt her?
Well, I don't know. I hope not, you know, but when I get home, I'm going to sit down and talk to her.
How about your mother and father? They have custody. How are they explaining this, and how are they dealing with it?
Well, you know, my mother tries to explain it. You know, she's more or less the one that told her everything, you know, and you know, they were shocked, you know, of course. I guess any mother or father would be, but they're handling it pretty well. They're behind me 100% and tell me they love me, you know, just be careful.
Are they embarrassed?
I don't think so.
Small town in Indiana?
No, they don't hide, you know, or not go out. You know, they still go out and do what they got to do. You know, I tell my mom, I said, just ignore these people.
Comment. Do you feel a lot of people are on your side in terms of coming forward?
Well, yeah, I have more support than I have non-support.
When you were on Geraldo, they used you to springboard into the issue of voyeurism, and you were saying you were very upset. You thought he needed help. You thought he was sick.
Yeah,
and yet earlier you told me he was kind of normal. As
well,
your
I mean,
clients.
as you know, some of the things he wanted me to do, like posing. You know, because a lot of guys are like that.
But that's basically all he did. He penetrated you once.
Well, yeah, but what it was is about my daughter, you know, and then maybe the sexual toy, you know, because I never get into that either. Well, starting off, I'm gonna go back to Indiana. Matter of fact, I'm going home this week. And
can I predict that you'll write a book?
Oh yes, I'm definitely gonna write a book for my whole life story. But I just want to get my life back together with my children, be with my family, and we'll go back to school.
Are you now against prostitution?
Well, I won't go back to it because, you know, I did it for so long, and I just got tired of it. But I think really it should be legalized because a lot of things I think it would help, really.
Help how?
Well, it might help some of the disease problems. I think it'd stop a lot of crimes, too, maybe like the rape crimes.
Have you an advance from a publisher on a book at this point?
No.
No, you're shopping. That's an interesting point of view. You mean do as I do, do as I say, not as I do?
Well, maybe what he's doing and preaching about is because what he's doing is wrong. He knows it's wrong. Maybe that's why he's preaching that it's wrong.
But you know, it's interesting. The man brought down Marvin Gorman, another preacher, for allegations that he was sexually involved. The man spoke out against Jim Bakker for his acts of homosexuality. And the whole time, the man was involved with Deborah. You don't find that funny?
I just find that, yeah, maybe he does need counseling. Maybe he does need help. But I know he helped me through a lot of tough times. Watching his shows have helped me through. I'm an ex-prostitute myself.
Are you?
And as far as I'm concerned, I'm all for him because he helped me through tough times.
Okay.
I'm no longer in the business myself. I just think they should let it go. He's helping and bringing plenty of people to Jesus and to God.
How does he help, and how did he help you? Did he help you leave prostitution?
I was involved with this is complicated. I was involved with someone who had AIDS. At that point in time, I was very concerned and worrying that, and it wasn't from the business, that something was going to happen to me. And I found his telecast on one morning, and I watched it, and it brought me through.
Doesn't Jimmy Swaggart agree with some other televangelists who say that AIDS is the devil's work?
Probably. Maybe that's why I've tested negative twice.
Say that again. I'm sorry, I missed it.
Maybe it is the devil's work. Maybe that's why I've tested negative twice.
Huh.
So I'm fine. Maybe because I have God in my life now.
Okay.
Maybe he prevented me from getting it.
Well, thanks for the point of...
I just want to say that I feel he's helping a lot of people, and he's helped myself.
I thank you for the point of view. Do you worry about AIDS since you've had thousands of customers?
Well, you know, there towards the end, I did, you know, I mean, I always used protection. I always did that, and I always went to the doctor and got regular checkups. But, you know, when I first started, you know, prostitution, the AIDS wasn't even, nobody heard of it. You know, and like I said, last couple of years, yeah, that's the main reason why I've been wanting to get out of it, because of that.
Just finally, what would you say to Jimmy Swaggart's wife, Frances, if you saw her?
Probably, I wouldn't say, I don't know what to say, because I don't know her, you know.
So you would have no idea what you would,
No.
what you would like to say to her?
No.
No?